I don't know what's wrong with me. Oh, yes, I do. Mercury's in retrograde.
Fuck you, Mercury. Get your shit together.
Welcome back to the Ghosty Girls podcast.
Oh, shit. We're recording.
Yeah. I feel like every intro is like, oh, shit, we're recording. And I'm like,
for real.
Yeah. Where have you been? Yeah. Hopefully everyone is hanging in there. We are now 3 episodes into the Paul and Karla series. We are at the finish line. This is the 4th and final episode in this series.
Finally.
I'm very, very excited. This is over.
Listen, I've been listening to the episodes, and although I hear them like live when we record, I cannot wait to hear episode 3 when it comes out, even though I've already heard it, just so I can revamp. But like today, I'm super excited to hear the ending because it's been like on my mind.
Yeah, it's honestly, I followed this case when it first happened. Paul's trial happened around the same time as O.J. Simpson's trial.
Okay.
Just to put that in like timeline perspective. So, although I shouldn't have been like following true crime things because I was only in like 4th or 5th grade. This is aging me, but whatever. I did, I followed that stuff because
I think we all did with OJ. That was like,
yes, I remember during the summer, my great grandmother watched me because obviously, home from school during the summertime, and we watched the OJ Simpson trial together. I was in like 4th grade.
Yeah, we did all that too.
But yeah, my great grandmother and I watched the O.J. Simpson trial together. And I swear, like, I credit my love of true crime to my great grandmother and also my Grammy, because she would take me to the library and to Kmart. Remember Kmart?
I remember. Blue Light Special.
Yeah. And she would let me pick out whatever book I wanted. And it was always a true crime book. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Don't want to do too much banter on this because this is going to be fucking long.
Okay.
I did not do a good job at splicing these 4 episodes. This honestly could have been 5, but I'm over it. I'm sure everyone else is over it. So here we go. You guys ready?
I'm ready. I'm buckled in, sort of.
I really hope that everybody's hyped for this because this is my favorite part of the story. Because, like, you couldn't make any of this shit up if you tried. And it's a true example of that phrase, truth is stranger than fiction, because this is going to fuck you guys up. I promise. All right. So last week we left off with Karla being hauled away from 57 Bayview by her family after confessing to her family that she was witness to Paul murdering her sister, Tammy Lynn. So the Homolka family takes Karla to the apartment of her sister Lori's friend, whose name is Karina Hanna. And Karina's husband just so happens to be a Toronto police officer. So they felt that she would be safe there. Once they got her to the apartment, Karla told Karina and her husband, the police officer, that Paul had been abusing her. And they all called the police together. And they promptly arrived at the apartment and took Karla to the hospital to be evaluated for her injuries.
Okay.
And this is where the infamous raccoon-eyed Karla pictures come from that you can see online. And they're bad. He really did beat the hell out of her. Like, there's no disputing that. Paul was then arrested at their home and was taken to the same exact place that he had been questioned in the death of Tammy Lynn. Shockingly, Paul was charged with assault with a weapon because he beat her with a flashlight. And then he was released. They released him. They charged him and released him. And this is where Paul's descent into madness really begins. Realizing that Karla is gone, she ain't coming back, she left him, he starts heavily abusing alcohol and prescription medication, like pills. And he sits in his recording studio room with his camera recording and films himself crying whilst looking directly into the camera for hours. There's hours of this footage of him staring into the camera and crying.
That is some American Psycho shit.
Yes. It's also like little sissy fucking baby bitch shit too. He also stalks Karla and the Homolka family, calling them repeatedly, sending people out looking for her at her job, all of the things.
Who the fuck's listening to him? Who's he sending?
He still has friends because at this point, no one knows that he's the Scarborough rapist.
Yeah, you right.
For whatever reason, like her parents just kind of sat on this information that, you know, Karla told them that he killed Tammy Lynn. It's really fucking weird. So meanwhile, Karla's just relaxing at Karina's apartment. She's writing in her journal and she's reflecting on all of the abuse she has suffered at the hands of Paul Bernardo. Karla also wrote and mailed letters to everyone in their social circle that she could think of, telling them that Paul was a quote-unquote wife beater and painting the worst possible picture of him to everyone. In the letters, she tells friends that she's getting a divorce soon. Yay! Direct quote. She literally said that.
Oh my God, I'm getting a divorce. Yay! Yeah. You gotta do the voice.
Divorce Barbie! And she also talks about how excited she is for her new life as a single girl. She went out with friends, she went shopping, she went out clubbing and drinking, and she even began dating again.
Oh, good Lord.
She ended up getting into a relationship with some dude who apparently not only looked exactly like Paul Bernardo, but also drove the same car as him. Not really a good look.
No.
At the same time, Karla is talking shit about Paul to everyone and saying how she didn't even want to marry him, but he forced her and wah. But like, bitch, why, if you hate that man so much, are you banging a dude that's basically a carbon copy of him? So as Karla's living her best life, on February 1st, 1993, the results of the DNA test from the Scarborough rape kit finally comes back. And this reveals, once and for all, that Paul Kenneth Bernardo was indeed the Scarborough rapist. And instead of immediately arresting Paul, Detective Steve Irwin sets up 24-hour surveillance on 57 Bayview.
Crikey.
And just 2 days after the results came in, Detective Whitefield contacted the Homolkas in an attempt to find Karla because they wanted to question the woman who was married to the Scarborough rapist. So 2 detectives come out to the Homolka home, and it's at this point that shit starts to come together, and they begin suspecting that Paul had something to do with the local murders of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. They also had some evidence, including a map of Scarborough. Like, remember how a piece of the map had fallen at the abduction scene? They found this. It had fingerprints on it. Investigators also wanted to know why Karla was seen wearing the same Mickey Mouse watch as the one Kristen French owned in the photos of her injuries at the hospital.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm. The interview with Karla, it went smoothly, and Karla was just, you know, she was charming. She had her little baby voice going until they asked her about that Mickey Mouse watch. And it was at this point that Karla had an extreme change in demeanor, and she became very visibly anxious. So yeah, Karla knew what the fuck was up at this point. She knew they were on to her and him. So shortly after the interview, she was fingerprinted. She goes to her lawyer's office and she tells her lawyer everything. So it's said by someone at the law firm that worked there, I don't know if it was like a paralegal or secretary or whatever, that when Karla's lawyer emerged from the room that they were in, he was like dead white. Like he lost any kind of a tan that he had. He was just like white as a ghost because I'm sure she told him some shit.
Could you imagine not knowing, like, you have a client walking in, here she comes, she looks like Barbie, she talks like this, and then, like, she tells you all the shit, she just drops it on you?
Nope.
I'll stop the banter, I know this is long, sorry.
No, it's fine. I don't even know, as an attorney, that, I mean, it's gotta be a lot. It's gotta be a lot.
Yeah, I can't.
It is then that Karla's attorney sets up a meeting with investigators and negotiates what is now famously referred to as the deal with the devil. Now, Karla, when she went to her attorney, she told him that she wanted full immunity in exchange for her testimony. So she wanted absolutely no jail time, and in exchange for that, she would testify against Paul Bernardo. She would give them everything they wanted. However, with her fingerprints matching the map found at the abduction scene of Kristen French, as well as her own testimony, there was absolutely no way that Karla was going to receive no jail time.
Good.
Impossible. They could, however, negotiate a very, very reduced sentence. So Karla signs this deal with the Crown, and things really begin to happen pretty fast. Fun fact, as part of her deal, Karla had to break up with her new boyfriend because they were like, this does not look good.
That's fair.
But spoiler alert, she still keeps seeing him, because if there's one thing we know about Karla, it's that she is really trustworthy.
Hundo. Do they still say that?
Well, if not, we're bringing it back.
Hundo.
Yeah. So while all this is going on, Paul is still not in fucking prison. And this was because the police, they really wanted to iron out this deal with Karla before they arrested him. Unfortunately, someone tipped off the media, and police had to scramble to get him arrested before the news broke out and before he was able to flee the country. Because remember, he was going to the United States like almost every day. Mm-hmm. So it would not have been that difficult. I mean, obviously he could have been extradited, but it would have been a whole pain in the ass. Mm-hmm. On February 17th, 1993, Paul Bernardo was officially arrested at his home and charged with 3 counts of rape in Scarborough, sexual assault of a woman, and I'm not going to name her, and also a rape of another woman. Not going to name her either. The only DNA evidence that they had that actually linked Paul to any of these crimes that he was charged with was the 3 Scarborough rapist cases. The rest, it was just hearsay from Karla. So the police were really stuck between a rock and a hard place at this point. Whether they wanted to admit it or not, they really needed Karla if they wanted to get to Paul. Investigators tried to question Paul, but all they could get out of him was no comment, or that he just wasn't in the mood to talk. He literally said that in his interview. He was like, I don't feel like talking.
Wow.
Yeah. On February 19, a search warrant was executed on 57 Bayview. Found in the home were various blood spatters on the walls, newspaper clippings of the crimes, so they had saved like mementos, unidentified bodily secretion stains.
Sorry.
No, I'm laughing at this next one. Many books about serial killers. And don't you dare look at me like that.
Listen, before we started recording, she just told me how excited she was because she found what's the website?
I think it's like thrift books or something, but I'm establishing a collection of
serial killer books.
It's mainly,
no, I'm just kidding.
Mainly vintage true crime. Okay, there's some serial killers sprinkled in, but just why the fuck are you judging me?
That's what I do. I judge people.
We listen and we judge.
We listen and we judge. 100%. We look and we judge.
I know, right?
No, I'm just kidding. Her stuff she's only got like...
It's for research.
Yeah, she's only got like
kind of
20 books over there with 5 more coming in the mail today.
It's fine. It's fine.
Get out of my brain.
So in addition to the multiple serial killer books, a handwritten list of all the crimes in chronological order was found, as well as a bag of women's soiled underwear.
Gross.
Yeah. And they found the filleted skin of Spike the iguana in the garage.
Oh, man. Listen, I bought a shirt to honor Spike.
Oh, you did?
I almost wore it today, but it smelled funny because it came from Five Below.
Next time.
So I'm going to wear it next week.
Next time. They also found pharmaceutical books with the pages about halothane and halcyon highlighted. But the one thing that they so desperately wanted to find were the videotapes that Karla told police were hidden somewhere in the home. Because remember, they had videotaped the rapes of these children. Unfortunately, despite finding numerous homemade sex tapes of Paul and Karla, as well as footage of Karla fingering herself with the hand of an unidentified comatose body, the videotapes of the rapes and murders were nowhere to be found.
Of course they weren't.
Without the videotapes, Karla's true involvement was not yet known, and Karla was offered the following deal. 1 charge of manslaughter for the death of Leslie Mahaffey, 1 charge of manslaughter for the death of Kristen French, and that's it. And for these murders, she would spend 10 years in prison for each victim in a minimum security prison, and these sentences could be served concurrently, meaning that Karla would be eligible for full parole in just 3 years.
Are you kidding?
No. Karla agrees to this deal, and she's taken to the courthouse where she waives her right to a preliminary trial. Her bail is then set at $110,000. And mind you, this is someone that had just been charged with not 1, but 2 counts of manslaughter. Her mommy and daddy put their house up to make bail, and she's released.
Are you kidding?
No. Nope. So while all this shit is going on with Karla, Paul's lawyer is granted access to Paul and Karla's home, where he finds the tapes, he takes them, he watches them, and then hides them without turning them over to the police. One of the legal assistants at the firm later said that she was almost certain that this lawyer made copies of the tapes, and that's copies plural, not copy.
What a sick fuck.
Yeah. One fucked up thing about this is that his lawyer actually rented a tape player, okay, to play the VHS tapes on. He rented it with cash, so it couldn't be traced that he rented this to watch the videos.
I can't.
I know. It's really fucked. On June 28, 1993, the trial of Karla Homolka began. Karla got to go home after court every day because she was bailed out, and the Homolkas even had a huge drunken pool party in Karla's honor where they blasted Karla's favorite songs from the Beastie Boys and Guns N' Roses, and paparazzi took pictures of Karla outside sunbathing topless.
You're going to take the Beastie Boys away from me too?
I'm taking everything away from you with this one.
Shit's sake.
Clearly, Karla and her family were really going through it with this trial, right? Like, it's baffling to me. Like, they're every day they're going to the trial of their daughter who, like, assisted in the rapes and murders of children, and they're throwing her fucking pool parties.
Yeah, this is not okay.
It's just
stupid.
You can't make this shit up. Karla ultimately pled guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter, and she was sentenced to 12 years in prison with the possibility of full parole in 4 years. So for everything that she did, she only got 12 years in prison. So she's taken to jail with a brand new TV bought for her by mommy and daddy, as well as several Mickey Mouse posters to decorate her cell with.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not kidding. And I just want to take a moment to highlight the fact that the prison that she was sent to, I know I already said it was minimum security. People in Canada call this place Club Fed. Okay.
That's
because
funny.
It's not like a prison.
Well,
they have Halloween parties. They have dances where they can dress up in cocktail dresses. They are allowed to wear their own street clothes. They can watch TV whenever they want. They can have TVs in their cells. They play games. It's basically like free reign of the prison. It's basically like an apartment complex, but you just can't leave. Which isn't fucking prison to me.
Well, no, and you free meals, and it sounds kind of fun.
Even with children, if you ground them and they're supposed to be in their room, do you not take away their fucking shit?
You do. By the way, I said fund instead of fun a second ago.
That's
Sorry.
fine. Same thing.
Whatever.
Same difference.
Yeah. Nope.
So, despite being able to decorate her own room and watch TV and all that, Karla was not a huge fan of being behind bars. No surprise there. But she did find ways to pass the time, which included reading magazine articles about herself, watching news specials about herself, getting her hair highlighted.
Where? How?
Because this isn't really a prison. It's a prison. I'm using air quotes. This is Canada. They're nice.
That's fair.
That's fair.
I'm just gonna accept that. That's fair.
Yeah, she wrote letters to all her friends constantly, and she also took naked pictures of her butthole and whatnot to send to her boyfriend that she had met shortly after leaving Paul. Another interesting detail about Karla in prison. She all of a sudden grew very interested in the Moores murders, which coincidentally is an English married couple named Ian Brady and Myra Hindley, and they also murdered multiple children. And she liked to read books about Ian and Myra. Comment on our Facebook page, YouTube, wherever, if you want me to do a deep dive into the Moores murders, because that case is also fucking crazy, but I digress.
You need to do a happy case after this one,
I am doing a happy case after this. So Karla's, she's living her best life in a minimum security prison, also known as Club Fed.
I love that.
And as a listener, you're probably wondering, what the fuck happened with the videotapes? Where are they? Well, Paul's lawyer, Ken Murray, held on to those tapes until September of 1994, until he essentially fired Paul as a client. Paul retained a new lawyer named John Rosen, and Ken gave the tapes to John Rosen. Now, thankfully, John Rosen actually has some fucking dignity and respect for the law, and he turned the tapes over to the police. Ken had these tapes hidden for over a year. For over a year, this man had the tapes in his possession, doing whatever the fuck he wanted with them, watching them, making copies, not giving them to police, obstructing justice because Karla already made this deal. Yeah, that's where we're at with the tapes.
They were probably on the black market. They probably still are.
And this is where authorities really discover the extent of Karla's involvement in the kidnappings, rapes, and murders of multiple girls. But at this point, it's too late. Karla has already been tried, and she's already been sentenced. So, we all know how that works. The whole double jeopardy thing. Once someone is tried, convicted, you can't retry them for the same crime.
In Canada, too?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh.
Had Paul's original lawyer turned the tapes over to the police immediately, Karla's quote-unquote deal with the devil would have never happened, and she absolutely would have received a harsher sentence than the mere 12 years she ended up receiving. Like, the Crown even said if these videotapes had come out, before the deal was made, she would have been sitting right next to Paul in the hot box. Like, they would have gotten the same fucking treatment. Once these videotapes were discovered and watched by both the Green Ribbon Task Force as well as investigators, Karla was now in the hot seat. And in a series of long interviews, we get Karla's version of the events. Karla states that it was Paul, not her, that strangled Leslie Mahaffey to death with an electrical cord. And she told investigators that she gave her expensive bear named Bunky to Leslie in an attempt to comfort her. How sweet and thoughtful of her, right?
So kind.
Yeah. Karla also stated that it was Paul alone who dismembered Leslie's body in the basement of their home. And she was at work during this time. This is what Karla says. He then bought 22 bags of cement and placed her body parts in the cement. And side note, one interesting detail is that investigators found no DNA evidence that Leslie Mahaffey was ever even in the home or the basement. As we can assume. And I've never dismembered a body. So, again, I can only assume. Dismembering a body with a saw, it's fucking messy, right?
I wouldn't know.
How absolutely zero blood was found in the home that was a DNA match to Leslie, I'll never fucking know.
That's insane.
Yeah. What investigators think probably happened is that both Paul and Karla set up tarps covering the entire basement and then disposed of the tarps in the dumpsters outside of the animal hospital that she worked at, because it's an animal hospital. Like, who would question bloody tarps in a dumpster, right? You know?
True.
Karla also told investigators how Leslie's dead body was stored in the basement and was almost discovered by a family member when they were over for Father's Day dinner. And apparently someone was going to go down in the basement for potatoes or something, and Paul and Karla caught them in enough time that they weren't able to get down there.
Well, I wish they would have went down and got the potatoes.
Yeah, it's so fucking eerie to think about. Like, Father's Day dinner, and you're at a house with a corpse in the basement.
Yeah.
It's just...
I don't know.
Karla also places the blame on Paul for Kristen French's death, which, of course, is not surprising in the least. The trial of Paul Bernardo began on May 18, 1995, and on June 25th, Karla takes the stand to testify against Paul. Paul's lawyer, John Rosen, tried as hard as he could to convince the jury that it was actually Karla and not Paul who took the lives of the girls. But Karla would not budge. She was a good witness. She was confident. She kind of gave it back to the attorney a little bit. She didn't fall into any of the traps that he attempted to get her to confess.
That's good, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
JK.
Yeah. Again, as much as I hate to say it, Karla is fucking smart. She's deadly intelligent. Like, she's also a narcissist and a sociopath. So, of course, you're not going to get her to admit to anything, you know? The jury had to review the 6 videos frame by painstaking frame, not once, not twice, but 3 fucking times.
Every single one.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Tape 1 was entitled Red Hot Chili Pepper and showed footage of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. The other tapes contained footage of Paul and Karla stalking and filming women without their consent, more footage of Kristen French, footage of Jane Doe's, and footage of Tammy Lynn Homolka, and also hours and hours of sex tapes of Paul and Karla both together and individually, as well as Karla cosplaying as her sister, Tammy Lynn.
After she died.
After she died.
Or after they killed her, I should say.
After they killed her.
Did the jury get any compensation for, like, therapy after this? I pray to God they did.
I don't know how Canada works with that. I don't know if... I don't think they're obligated to provide aftercare services for jury members. I think that's kind of on them. But hopefully they did get some therapy.
I hope they did.
And in an absolutely stunning and also really fucking stupid turn of events, Paul Bernardo took the stand in his own defense. And as a defense paralegal, I can confidently say that putting a defendant on the stand is almost never a good idea. But what do I know? I'm just some bitch. Some bitch. Paul, in his testimony, he admits to the rapes. But he insists that it was Karla and not him that actually killed Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. He did describe in detail how he dismembered Leslie with a saw and that her flesh kept jamming the saw up.
Gross.
Yeah. He states that he would cut off a body part, hand it to Karla, Karla would clean it off, and he likened it to the two, like, doing a dockside fish cleaning.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. Also, what I found really disturbing about this trial is that, again, they replayed these tapes 3 times, and, like, the attorneys would go frame by frame and ask Paul questions like, what are you doing in this one? What are you doing that? And what's the first thing about serial killers? Like, serial killer 101. They love to relive their crimes, right? So he's watching in full view of everyone, including the victims' families, and he gets to watch these videos again.
He's probably back there.
Oh, absolutely. Gross. He was absolutely getting off on it. You cannot convince me otherwise. So, like, the attorneys would be like, you know, what are you doing in this shot? And he would tell them, and they would be like, do you need us to rewind so we can go back again? And he'd be like, sure.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Gross.
I don't know. That just really, like, disgusted me. Because you know his ass was enjoying it. Because he's a piece of shit.
I can't. That's like...
It's adding insult to injury as far as I'm concerned. Like...
Yeah, I have no words again.
Yep.
Continue, sorry.
Despite Paul's testimony that Karla was the cold-blooded killer and not himself, the jury was not convinced. And on September 1st, 1995, Paul Bernardo is found guilty of all charges, including 2 counts of the first-degree murders of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French.
Good.
He is subsequently sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 25 years.
What?
However, in November of 1995, Paul is classified as a, quote, dangerous offender,
Good.
which means that he more than likely will never receive parole and will remain in prison for the rest of his stupid life. Spoiler alert, he does go up for parole, and it's happened a couple times, and it happened very recently, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Oh shit.
Paul's former lawyer, Ken Murray, was charged with obstruction of justice because, again, he held on to these videotapes for a year. But a judge found that the Crown did not show beyond a reasonable doubt that Ken intended to obstruct justice, and he was thus acquitted.
What?
In another lawsuit relating to this case, author Stephen Williams, who is the author of the book Invisible Darkness, which is my main source, he was actually charged with breaking a court order by viewing the videotapes for his book. Again, it could not be proved that he actually had access to the tapes, but according to people who actually did view the tapes, his description and transcript was dead on and even matched certain acts frame by frame. So, not really sure how he got a hold of these videotapes, but it's fair to say that he probably viewed them.
Well, didn't you say earlier in a different episode that he even would quote what song was playing in the background?
Yeah, he like verbatim, like frame by frame and all that. The Crown, however, did not want to have another trial in which they had to play and view the tapes again, so the judge dismissed the charges against author Stephen Williams. The 6 videotapes were subsequently destroyed per a court order in December of 2001. However, there are rumors that copies of these videos do in fact exist, but again, these are just rumors. I hope for the sake of the human race that these don't exist, but I also don't trust humans. Mm-hmm. I would probably venture to say that there's at least one copy out there floating around or in a lockbox or something.
There's got to be more than that.
Yeah, and
there's got to be more than that.
And that's terrible. All I'll say about that. After serving just 12 years in a minimum security prison, Karla Homolka was released from prison in July of 2005 with her legally changed name of Leanne Teal. And Teal, if you remember, was the name of the serial killer in her favorite movie. In an interview after her release, Karla stated, and I quote, "I don't want people to think that I am someone dangerous who will do something to their children." She also stated that she thinks of what she's done, and she does not think that she deserves to be happy because of it. And I never thought I would see the day where I would agree with Karla Homolka on fucking anything, but I agree with her on this.
Well, yeah.
Baby, you do not deserve to be happy in life. Fuck you, goodbye.
Deuces.
And if you think for one moment that Karla may have rehabilitated herself in prison, I would like to let you all know that whilst in prison, Karla had an emotional and apparently sexual relationship with another inmate named Jean-Paul Gerbet, who's French. And you want to know who Jean-Paul Gerbet is? He's a dude who murdered his girlfriend when she attempted to leave him and is now serving life in prison. So, yeah, she's got a type, eh?
Yeah. She like them murderers.
She sure does. As to Karla's physical whereabouts, reports have her living in Quebec, the Caribbean, Guadeloupe, and Montreal, where she was discovered to have been volunteering at an elementary school that her children attend. And yes, you heard that correctly. Karla Homolka has children of her own.
How is she even allowed to have children? This is my problem.
She's out of prison. What are you going to do?
Fucking, oh, God.
She's got 3 children, which is coincidentally the exact number of lives she took. Isn't that weird? 2 boys and a little girl. And who might be crazy enough to stick their dick in that, you may ask? The brother of her fucking lawyer.
Stop.
And I'm going to take a moment to let that all sink in so you guys can pick your jaws up off the floor. Sippy, sippy.
Oh, it's Starbucks time. I gotta switch straws. I'm going to the non-decaf. Hold up.
So now, back to the whole volunteering at a fucking elementary school thing. People were understandably really fucking outraged that this woman was even allowed within 5 feet of a school, let alone volunteering and working with small children. People really took to social media to express their outrage, and Karla has not really been seen publicly since. The most recent information available has her living in Guadalupe with her husband, Thierry Bordelis. I guess that's his name. I don't even care if I'm saying it right.
Is he still the lawyer's brother?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're living with their 3 children. And for now, that's all we really know. I'm assuming that she will probably continue to lay low, which is probably good for her and her family. But I really dread the day where her children get on the internet and figure out who the fuck their mother really is.
I mean, I pray for their sake that they don't.
They're going to
find out, but
they're going to.
She's such a narcissist. She probably already told them.
It's a possibility, and she might have spun it, the way that she usually does. Like, oh, I was an abused housewife, and meh. Anyway. Despite no one really knowing where the fuck Karla is physically, she does allegedly have a social media presence. Karla took a liking to providing parental advice on the popular website Baby Center, and she made several comments under her username, Love You Forever. On one post, she replied to another user who was discussing the dangers of pregnancy and childbirth, and Karla wrote, and I quote, "Pregnancy is a life-threatening condition? Please. That has got to be the stupidest thing I've ever read on this board all week." Then another commenter with the username of Kristen French replied with, "Pregnancy is a life-threatening condition? Life-threatening is when someone tries to rape or murder you." And the due date of the Kristen French username was listed as April 14, the day Kristen French was abducted by Paul and Karla.
That's awesome.
The username Love You Forever was promptly deleted after this interaction.
Good.
And this brings us to what I believe is what very well could have been my own personal experience with Karla Homolka.
Oh, I'm excited for that.
I can't prove it, but this is what happened. I promised you guys I would tell y'all. Here we go. So this was before my daughter was born. So it was at least 10 years ago. This was a long time ago. I don't even have this account anymore. Like, I don't even have access to this Reddit account. I commented on a true crime subreddit on a thread about female serial killers. Someone had posted a question asking, who was, in your opinion, the worst female serial killer of all time? I commented, Karla Homolka. Mm-hmm. Several people agreed. I got lots of upvotes, and a lot of people left comments saying, like, oh, that's a good answer. I would have never thought of that. However, of the positive responses I received to my reply, one of the responses didn't necessarily agree with me. One user commented, it was something to the effect of, like, how dare I say Karla Homolka was a serial killer when she was merely an innocent victim of Paul Bernardo, who was forced to perform acts by Paul against her will. And this person also made a point to say that it was Paul and not Karla who actually took the lives of the girls. And then on every other comment, like, to everyone responding to me, she was, like, defending Karla. This account was defending Karla. And then this person, like, went on all of my other posts, like, went on my profile, went through, like, all of my comments and wrote stuff like, you're a dumb bitch, etc. Like, really came after me.
Wow.
So I checked this person's profile. The only comments that were ever made were comments defending Karla Homolka.
Wow.
So I responded to the response defending Karla, and I said something to the effect of, I think it's really bizarre how the only comments you ever make on Reddit are about how Karla's innocent, and you're going to great lengths to defend this person. Then someone else responded with, oh, hey, Karla, nice to see you're back on Reddit. Wow. All of the comments were then immediately deleted, and the account itself was deleted.
Oh, shit.
Now, again, I cannot in any way prove that this was actually Karla. It was on some kind of true crime subreddit. This was at least 10 years ago. I unfortunately did not screenshot it all before it was all removed.
Well, how would you know?
It also happened really fast. Like,
yeah.
I mean, this person went through, like, all my shit and was like, you're a dumb bitch and blah, 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 and, like, all kinds of nasty stuff.
Wow.
Why would someone go that hard for Karla Homolka?
Because they were Karla Homolka.
That's what I'm saying.
Or her husband.
Well,
just kidding. It was Karla.
Yeah, because he's still in prison. He doesn't have any access to, yeah.
Oh, I meant her current husband.
Oh, it could have been. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
No, it was her.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll never know who was really behind that keyboard, but it's weird.
Know.
It's weird. You know
who was behind that keyboard. That's crazy.
I know. So yeah, Karla, if that's you, I am not sorry for saying what I said, and I will say it over and over again. Karla Homolka is just as much of a serial killer as Paul Bernardo was/is. I will die on this hill. No one will ever change my mind. So respectfully, Karla, if you're listening, go fuck yourself and have the life you deserve.
Mic drop.
Bam.
Mic drop. Or, Karla, hit us up. I'll interview you, not Christina, and you can try to change her mind. You won't, but you can try.
You guys can't see this, but I'm staring Alicia dead in her face like, bitch, you would really try to change my mind?
I would.
Yes, try and change my mind. Try and change my mind and convince me that Karla is a good person who was a victim. I'll wait.
Oh, I'm not saying I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Let Karla come
Let someone do it. Let someone try, okay?
Good luck.
I will debate you until I have no breath in my fucking body. Let's do this.
And she gonna win. I'm just gonna throw that out there too. She gonna win.
Paul Bernardo is currently still in prison at the age of 60. He's 60 now. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
And the sketch from his most recent parole hearing that took place on November 26th, 2024, so just 4 months ago, the sketch has him looking a whole ass mess. Well, and I love that for him.
I mean, I hope he looks a whole ass mess.
Yeah, he looks real disheveled. His hair's like all like curly and wild, and yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Love that guy.
Love that for him. And at the parole hearing, where victim impact statements from both of the families of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French were heard, Paul was yet again denied parole.
Good.
Leslie's brother pleaded with the parole board to respect the life sentence imposed upon Paul Bernardo and said, quote, that life is not yet over. Yup.
Good.
You can read the full impact statements online. They're heartbreaking. Like the families are still very affected every day by the crimes of Paul and Karla. And although justice was not served in the case of Karla, the best we can do as of this point is to ensure that Paul Bernardo stays exactly where he belongs, rotting in prison until his death, which is hopefully from like cancer of the asshole or something equally, if not more horrific.
That's fair.
Yeah. He also has to be in solitary confinement because people are constantly threatening to both beat the shit out of him and also kill him. Apparently, he felt so scared for his life that in 2018, he was caught with a homemade shank in his cell. He was going to be charged with possession of a weapon, but for whatever reason, probably because Canadians are nice, the Crown withdrew the weapons charge against him.
Wow.
Other than that, there's really no other reports of violence on Paul's part, but in all fairness, that's probably because Paul doesn't get the pleasure of having any contact with anyone.
Good. I'm really, really glad that Paul is feeling fear.
Yeah, he's feeling exactly what his victims felt.
Yeah, I mean, and I hope he feels that every day.
I think he will.
Good.
I think he will. In Paul's own words, at a prior parole hearing that took place in 2018, he states that with the help of psychologists, he was able to pinpoint the reasons for his sexual sadism. And those reasons include low self-esteem, misguided coping mechanisms, cognitive distortions, and the effects of stress and alcohol. He states that he did these crimes to raise his self-esteem when he felt low, and also added that he is a very flawed person, which is the understatement of the fucking century. So life for Paul consists of spending his entire day in a cell completely alone, aside from just 1 hour of yard time, which is also completely alone.
Good.
He has pretty much zero human contact.
Good.
And to this, Paul says, quote, being me in prison is hard. And he states that he cries all the time.
Good.
Also, love that for him. No quality of life and unhappiness is what I love to see for these rapists and serial killers. Because as Karla herself said, y'all don't deserve to be happy.
Exactly.
And now I am done with this case.
Wow. That was a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
I listen. Paul Bernardo can eat a big, fat, hairy donkey dick. Karla, I'm not sure what that was. Maybe a goose?
Both
Karla,
of them.
you can eat a whole sack of big, hairy donkey dicks. And
She would probably enjoy that, though.
yeah, you're right.
She can choke on a bag of donkey dicks.
There you go. You said it, not me.
She'd probably enjoy that, too.
I can't.
The
You
fact
killed your
that-
sister, bro.
I know. The fact that she's just out there living her life with 3 kids,
That's terrifying.
it's terrifying, and it's also, like, maddening. Like, it really pisses me the fuck off.
Well, that, and you had, honestly, like, you know that was her. You had
to have
personal
been.
experience with her. That's insane.
It had to have. I wish I had proof of it, but again, this was 10 years ago.
Why would you make that up anyway? And, like,
For shits, I don't know. But no, I didn't. I promise you it happened.
I believe you.
Again, I don't have access to that Reddit account anymore. But the last time I checked, it was years ago. And, like, that entire thread was deleted. So, like, whoever deleted the question, like, deleted
Everything.
or no, whoever posted that question deleted the question. So everything was, subsequently deleted.
Yeah.
And then the person who was like riding hard for Karla, they deleted their account too. So nothing would show up anyway.
Yeah. When someone deletes their account, do their comments, like,
They're all gone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So even the ones that she made, like, on your personal, what a weird, terrible, selfish, low, dumb person.
Yeah. And I mean, you can't tell me that people like this do not search for themselves on the internet. You can't tell me they don't Google themselves. You can't tell me they don't watch documentaries or listen to podcasts or whatnot. I'm sorry. You can't convince me that Karla is like not listening to anything about herself and her crimes. A leopard doesn't change its spots. You know, I personally do not feel that you can rehabilitate a sex offender. Karla is a sex offender. She has raped people. Okay. She has
Drugged and raped.
Yes. I don't think that there's any rehabilitating that. I know that there is a part of her deep down that still enjoys what she did. And I don't care what anybody says. You're not going to change my mind. Yeah. All right. So I promised that I would play some clips of Paul and Karla talking so you guys can hear how absolutely douchey both of them are. You want to hear some?
Duh. Yes.
All right. Here we go. Okay. So this clip is Paul talking to investigators. This was back in the early 2000s. You're going to hear him basically just being a narcissist. He gets pissed off at people thinking that he's a liar. Okay.
Oh,
God forbid you call a narcissist a fucking liar. But here we go.
Okay, problem. I turned on the TV. I waited for Peel Regional to come by. September rolls around. They make a public announcement. It's written on my file here that I lied to police and I did not commit the crimes that I said I committed on the offenses in Peel Region.
Okay.
Big problem.
I have spoken to Peel Region, and they have told me that they don't have enough information at this point to identify anything that the letter that was sent to the police, through to the police, wasn't specific enough to identify any offenses. Now, that's something that we can talk about sort of following this interview, and if you want to get into that, we can talk about that.
Well, I've been sitting with this for years, and it's written on my file, and it makes me seem like, oh, he's just this crazy. You guys love doing that. I'm this crazy psychopathic liar.
I mean, you are.
Right.
Why was that statement issued? Why didn't they come in and talk to me if they didn't have enough information? We were waiting on that tape. You can play that tape back. I asked you guys if Peel Regional were going to come in. I sat there month after month after month. No one came. I turned on the TV in September. Peel, declared that Paul Bernardo was, this crazy liar to police. What's the fundamental problem here?
Well,
I know. I mean, justice the Canadian way, and no one comes in, and now you guys are saying that you didn't have enough information.
Well, I can't answer for them specifically as to what they did or didn't do. I can tell you that because they're a separate police department, I don't have any control over what investigation that they did do. I can tell you that I have spoken with an investigator in Peel Region, and they have told me that at this point they don't have enough information to move forward. They haven't been able to identify any offense that was specifically talked about.
That statement you're giving me is much different from the public statement they said, which said I was a liar.
Okay, well, I don't.
There's night and day, and they didn't come in. If they didn't have enough information, why don't you come in and get the information?
Absolutely.
I mean, either I'm lying or I'm not lying. And this goes to the crux of this argument. Either I'm a liar to you, I'm going to lie to you right now about everything, like I did to Peel Regional, according to their story, or I'm not.
Or according to what you did.
I'm not going to sit here and come voluntarily and have people come. You guys ban me from the press. You roll your stories over, and you constantly say that I'm a liar. I'm a liar. I made mistakes 17 years ago. Said, okay, fine, I did. But now we're talking about today, and you're not going to roll forward that I'm some psychopathic liar sitting in jail claiming other people's responsibilities for other crimes. This is a total cross-examination point. You want to start this thing? Locklear's going to grab a hold of it and say, well, he lied about other crimes. He's a crazy liar. Why didn't you guys resolve this?
And again, I can't answer for what Peel Region did or didn't do.
Why is he just talking in a circle?
I was just going to say, does he not remind you of a politician?
Yes. Yeah.
Which is why narcissists do so well in political positions.
Because they just talk
in fucking circles. And the goal is just to confuse the person who is questioning you to the point where they don't even remember why the fuck they are there anymore. You know what I mean? Because he's just talking in circles. And I think I said this in one of the earlier podcasts where he just talks like this. He doesn't really take a breath. He just talks, but he's not really talking about anything. He doesn't really talk about anything. He just talks. That's how he is. And I just feel like that highlights who he is as a person. But now let's listen to a little bit of Karla. And oh my God, are we going to listen to Karla? I can't wait. We're going to listen to Karla Homolka.
Karla,
here we go.
Hit us up so we can prove that you're guilty, because we already know that you are.
All right, so in this clip, you are going to hear her talking a little bit about the murder of Leslie Mahaffey, and you'll just see how absolutely she's got no remorse. She's like a complete fucking psychopath. Here you go.
Her.
First of all, he killed Leslie because she could identify him. Okay, the reason why he started bringing me home was because he wasn't satisfied with just like raping them and leaving. He wanted to have it over and over and over again. That's why his ultimate fantasy was to have like sex slaves, to keep constant beatings. It was hell. He wanted to abduct somebody, but there was nobody.
And when you came back, did you have lots of photographs to show people?
Photographs and video.
And were these staged in the sense that he told you you're going to look happy and it was going to be a great time, or?
He didn't tell me that, but I knew his mom had a photograph or video camera. Hiding abuse. Like, I mean, every time we went to my parents, I was totally unhappy because, I mean, on the way there, Paul would be lecturing me. You know, if you say or do anything to make them think that we're not happy, you know, I'm going to kill you, you're going to get it. He saw her and pulled into the parking lot and he told me what to do.
Now she's talking about Kristen French.
What I was supposed to do was call her and ask her for directions or get a map and get out of the car and the door open and he was going to come around and then push in the car. So that's exactly what happened.
How was he supposed to keep her in the car?
How was she was able to make that about her though? Like,
Because she's a narcissist as well.
Saturday came and he decided that it was time to kill her. We had to go to my parents' house and try to like.
So at the end of that clip, she's like talking about Kristen French, because remember how they had to go to her parents' house for Easter, right? So she's like, oh, we just decided that we had to kill her because we had to go to my parents' house.
we had to go eat ham.
But like, I apologize for the audio quality, but also this was the 90s. You're not really going to find any clear audio of her. I apologize. It'll probably be easier to listen to yourself on YouTube, and I'll link the videos. But I don't know. Hopefully I did her voice justice.
I think you did better than her voice.
I play Karla better than Karla plays herself.
It's true.
I'm just kidding. Like, bleh.
Netflix, hit her up.
And so, yeah, those are the clips that I promised y'all.
You're welcome.
So, hope you guys enjoyed this 4-parter. I got to do something light for my next episode because this was a lot. It was very draining. And it's just like, I feel like with true crime cases, at least when the person, when justice is served, you feel a little better about it. Yeah. I mean, obviously, like, stories about murder, it's not meant to make you feel great.
Yeah.
But at least there's like a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, like that the person, they received justice. But in this case, I feel like only one of them did. The other one's just out living life, Yeah,
I feel like we only get like 50% closure.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes this case like so like riveting is that like, what this person did, and yet she's just out there chilling, maybe even listening to this podcast. Who even fucking knows?
She's like Becky's butt. So out there.
Yeah, leave a comment on Facebook or YouTube. I don't know. Let us, if you guys have any recommendations for like paranormal stories or cases or anything like that, anything you'd like us to cover, let us know.
I have 2 requests.
Okay.
Actually 3, because you gave me one.
Okay.
2. Working on the one, and that when you said the word distortion, that just gave me a little anxiety because of the one I'm doing.
What are you doing? Or you want to keep it a secret?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm doing, like, the Jody Hildebrandt and Ruby. I'm doing a deep dive onto Jody because I feel like everybody's focusing on Ruby.
Jody was like a cult leader.
Jody, I think as
You
a
know,
cult
I love
leader,
cults.
I know.
I said that really creepily.
And like, listen, some of the stuff I'm fine. I'm like, why is no one talking about this? You know, everybody's focusing on Ruby, I think, because she's the pretty one and she's the one that had the 8 passengers and all that other shit. Mm-hmm. But like, Jody's the one that fucked it all up. I mean, Ruby was not a good person to start with, but like, Jody found that fire and like lit it, poured gasoline on it.
Which is interesting because I feel like there are people out there that by themselves wouldn't have committed certain acts like Paul and Karla.
Yeah.
I will say this. I don't believe that Karla would have done this without Paul. I think she had it in her, but I don't think she would have ever completed the act. She would have never executed the acts without a counterpart like him.
Well, I think she's one of those women who doesn't know themselves and just makes themselves into whatever their partner wants them to be.
Yeah, I think that too. But I also think that certain people bring out certain aspects of your personality. Yeah. Just like how you might, I mean, certain relationships like don't work because it brings out like the worst version of you. But then you could be with someone else and you're like this great version of yourself. Some people, it's like fire and gasoline, right? This may be a hot take, but I'm not even convinced that Paul would have straight up murdered people if it weren't for Karla. Because if you remember, he was a rapist for a while. Mm-hmm. He didn't start murdering until Karla came into the picture.
Yeah. That is a hot take. I mean, I think he would have graduated to it, or he would have found someone like Karla.
Yeah, I think
eventually.
He needed some kind of like counterpart.
Clyde asshole.
But alone, I'm not really sure that either of them would have done what they did to that extent.
I get it. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Let us know what you guys think.
Fuck them. That's what I think.
Yep.
Awesome.
Fuck this shit. I'm out. All right, guys. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Hold on. Oh. April showers bring May flowers, but what do May flowers bring?
What?
Pilgrims.
Oh my God.
Okay. Don't be one to her Tuesday reference. Bye.
Bye. That was funny.
That was stupid.
Let's go to the mall.
Okay.